I'm Carole Robinson. Welcome to this edition of County Happenings, where we find out what's going on in the county by talking to the man who knows, Rogers Anderson, County Mayor.
How are you today?
I'm doing well. How you doing? Pretty day.
Gorgeous day. Although the show will air after the fact, but I think most everyone in Williamson County is ready for spring to get here, to get away from the frost and the freeze.
I was so glad to put a regular T-shirt on today rather than long sleeve and sweatshirts.
It seems like now we haven't had a lot of rain this spring.
Yeah, we were supposed to all this week. We were supposed to get some rain, and we just had at our place. We just had a couple of little drizzles.
Well, I hope it stays dry through a couple of more days because I'm trying to get my garden out, and you can't get it out when it's raining.
Muddy, and that ground's got to be a little bit less clumpy.
That's right, but it's a wonderful time, and you got great news all over the county. Things growing and popping and jumping, and the flowers just signify another new beginning of a season.
Like I tell my grandsons, because they will always wonder why the daffodils die back. Oh, well, the daffodils are here to sell. Yeah, spring, and then they let the other flowers take over.
And I know this show's got a lot we could talk about other than that, but I think my tulips this year I plant a whole bunch of tulips every year because I just love them. They don't last very long, but I love them. I think they're the prettiest they've been in several years.
Yeah, I've had more. The last couple of years, a lot of them didn't come up, but this year most of them did.
That's my therapy to get away from politics. It's working in the dirt and the flowers, and then of course I love my garden and the fresh vegetables.
And you get some nice stuff.
I'm blessed that I had a mom and dad that growing up, there was no democracy at our house about weeding the corn and the strawberries.
It was a theocracy.
There was no democracy. It was a part of the way of life, and there was no democracy about planting and picking. And now, you never got in the kitchen with Mom when she was canning. We were not allowed that. That was her domain. But we could lift it up for her, set it down for her. But when it came to the canning side,
this is Mama's place.
There's Mama's kitchen.
I know what to do, how to do it, and right. You're in my way.
And she'd use terms like I hear some of our women make comments that bathing the jars, which meant the jars went in the container, I think, and cooled them off or cooked them.
No, you got to boil them.
Boil them first. See, I don't know anything about that, but I know they're good to eat. I know they're real good to eat in the winter months. There's nothing better than green beans and so many of the other products that you have in the wintertime.
Oh yeah. I'm ready for our garden to get in so I can start playing again. Although I've got plenty of flower gardens to take care of in the meantime. So in with the spring comes Memorial Day. And Williamson County always does a wonderful presentation and not a commemoration of and memorializing those who have passed away, veterans that have been in any branch of our military service.
That's correct. There's 3 dates that are noted in your 365-day calendars. One's Armed Forces Day. That's usually held in the summer months. You got the Veterans Day, which is always the 11th month, 11th hour in November. And then the one that most people would say is the memorial side, which it is Memorial Day, which is on the third, be a Monday, and at 5 Points, as has been the tradition for the last several years since we put in the Memorial Day Park, the park down at 5 Points, is to have a ceremony that starts at 10 o'clock. There's come an hour and a half, 2 hours earlier. Rain or shine. If it rains, we just move inside the archives. And we'll have a ceremony, and this year is going to be a little bit different. We'll have the traditional, the buglers and the chaplain, and Dr. Ken Moore and myself will say a few words. We'll certainly place the pavers, the bricks, some people may call. We're designating a section of our walkway this year, and it will start with about 18 men that were actually killed in action, KIA. So each year
during the Vietnam War.
Well, it could be, but as time goes on, we'll see more that we'll designate. But we're actually
just a section for KIA.
KIA, because your husband's a veteran, and like myself, when that time comes that we leave this earth, if somebody thought enough of you, they might buy a brick. But if you don't feel they thought enough of you, go ahead and buy it now. We'll get it in for next year. But that's very popular. We've got several hundred bricks down there with names on them, pavers on them. And so we wanted to kind of specialize in, how about those young men that were actually killed in action, be it World War II, World War I, Vietnam, whatever it may be. So we're going to start that. And unfortunately, or fortunately, in Memorial Day this year, Stan Tyson, who has been a county commissioner, he's still on the road board, lives out in the Grassland areas, was in charge of a group of men, and he can give you the whole history of how they had to go in and stabilize an area, and they lost 16 or 17 young men. 6 of those are still living, and so they're in that 70 and 80 or late 60s and 70 and 80 years of age. 6 of those people are coming back, and or their families, for the special dedication of the 50th event. It's not the 50th year since Vietnam War ended, but it was 50 years ago, almost to the date,
When that battle
occurred, and Stan is going to actually do some of the dedication. And so it should be a very solemn time. And that's what Memorial Day is. I think Stan says it best when you think about throughout this continental United States, the 50 states that we have, at one time, one place in that men from California, New York, and Washington, and Florida come together, Tennessee and Kentucky, to serve on a particular mission. They may or may not know that other individual during that particular event that they're serving. It may have been another platoon or another battalion, whatever. They were brought in to stabilize an area, rescue someone, or to advance a particular agenda that the commanding people said. And then after that's over, they go and they're discharged honorably. They go back to their communities. They may or may not ever see or communicate. I know that's probably true with your husband's friends. It is with mine. You had this great vision that when you're being discharged, we'll stay in touch. We went through so much, and you did. But as time takes on,
sometimes you don't want to remember what you went
sometimes
through.
you don't. And some of this is buried back. So I really would encourage everyone that if you have children, grandchildren, or if it's just you want to take an hour out of your life, a couple hours out of your day, to come and have some coffee and sit through a ceremony that
it's solemn, but it's not morbid.
That's right.
And it just makes your heart swell with pride. And I'm going to tear up because I always do when I think of these guys. That so many young men.
They gave the ultimate. And that's what Memorial Day is all about, to recognize their sacrifice for the freedoms that we enjoy today. The freedom to, I was talking to staff this morning here at the television station. They worked very late last night. There was a planning commission meeting that carried on much later than normally do. But just that freedom to be able to have the freedom of speech, the freedom of being able to communicate, the freedom to show that show without somebody censoring them, the freedom for each and every person to stand up, whether you agree with them or disagree with them, is that you have the right to have that
disagreement.
That disagreement, the same freedoms I think a gentleman, just one of the country music stars, just recently died, and I think he wrote the song. The same freedom that burning the flag is to keep it alive.
Right.
Not that I like that.
No, I
think that's very
But
disrespectful.
you have the right to do.
Those freedoms, freedom to worship, the freedom of so many things, and that ultimate sacrifice for those young men. That probably, when I was a 20-year, I didn't understand world issues. I knew there was my time to go. We got drafted. You went. You served. You respect the authorities. You didn't like it always. You hated the conditions, but you did it. And then if some stayed, some didn't. But at the end of the day, those men that paid the ultimate is so critical. We keep that in our forefront for the next generation.
Yeah, and Veterans Day
April
is the day
30th.
to honor. Veterans Day is to honor all the veterans, but Memorial Day is to honor those who served and have passed away, whether they passed away, were killed in action, or they're no longer with us through natural causes.
1 hour,
1 hour, May 30th, Monday.
10 o'clock,
10
5
o'clock,
points.
5 points, be there, or be square. And something more fun and not Sports Authority. That's kind of your. We kind of mentioned it last time, just threw it out there, and people are now that D1 is closed. People are talking. You're missing a place where the kids can go and play different sports.
So this to kind of give you the quick synopsis on the Sports Authority, which was approved by the County Commission unanimously, to allow a Sports Authority to be set up to begin conversations with any group that may want to talk about the bricks and mortar, the cost and the structure and all that. Very bland. It's business oriented. But the side that everyone is talking about is the Sports Council. That's the marketing side. What are the potentials? So after the commission approved the Sports Authority to be enacted under Tennessee Code annotated, then I contacted the CVB, the Convention Visitors Bureau, about, I need your help. I don't have a department that does that. I don't want to hire people to do that. But this is your wheelhouse, and so help me out, figure out what we need to do. It's all about amateur sports. It's not about professional sports. We'll let Davidson County handle that. They do a very, very good job of that, and that costs a lot of money. But it's about amateur sports, and we found out through the loss of the facility that you said that many young people have been using those facilities for volleyball and basketball and other activities
Hockey,
they could,
yeah, all kinds of stuff.
and hockey, and that facility is no longer there. So what do we do with all that? We don't have enough gym spaces. We don't have enough ball fields. And if the public and the private and government are going to get together, let's decide what is needed in our community. I may ask you, and you say, it's girls volleyball. I may ask someone else, and they may say, oh, no, it's soccer.
Yeah.
And where do we need to be going in the next 10 and 20 years?
And so does it need to be fields and a facility, or just a facility?
And that's what that study will do. The study is going to be commissioned under the CVB, the Convention Visitors Bureau, to contract with a company, and they'll take times out, and they'll talk about interviews. They'll interview these swimming groups, soccer groups, baseball, all these different groups, and get some numbers and what those numbers mean to us in the hotel motel world, that people come here and stay and spend their dollars here.
And will they, I'm sure they will, the potential, the numbers may be this now, but if there's a facility or if there's an opportunity, will they grow?
Sure. If I think, I'm not a hockey fan, but I think it's just a very short period of time that you'll see hockey as a TSS, Tennessee Secondary School, and the TSSAA as a sanctioned sport. Now, when I say a reasonable amount of time, maybe 15 or 20 years, I don't know that it wouldn't be tomorrow because I'm not in those conversations. But I remember 25 years ago that soccer wasn't a sport around that it is today. And today it's one of those sports that is played throughout all of our high schools, just like football and baseball and basketball. And with all of the conversations going around football, be it pro, be it con, concussions, things like that, more and more parents are saying, let's look at some other alternative sports. That's not to say you couldn't get hurt in soccer, and basketball, even golf.
Those balls and those clubs are pretty tough.
They're hard. But we need to know, where do we need to be as a community so that when a company comes to town and says, well, if we had a complex, what's the market potential? Right. If we had a field, what could we expect? Who's going to pay for that? Can't always be government.
Right.
We can't. We're always having to compare, to push and support, which is a good thing, our schools. But there's only so many dollars that's available that can be used for that. So we need to figure out other alternatives like other communities are doing. This is not new. It's being done in Dallas and Charlotte and Atlanta. It's being done at the professional level in the major markets like Nashville and Atlanta. But all around these surrounding states, in Alabama, you've got where they hold the SEC baseball championships each year. It's in Hoover, Alabama, and a little wide spot in the road, but for about 3 weeks. It's the baseball capital of the world, and so they've set up a sports authority so that when you're in town, how else could we use our facility? Restaurants, hotels, all of that means a different set of revenue. Ellie Chin, who is in charge of the convention and bureau, we are the 6th largest, Williamson County is the 6th largest tourist market in the state now. And every time a business man, woman comes to town and stays, every time just a pure good old tourist comes to town and wants to see the downtown Franklin or the historical sites or a facility in Brentwood that they may want to go to, that number corresponds to a number we call property tax. It's $458 per household.
That we don't have to pay.
That we don't have to pay. And that may not sound like a lot if you're paying a whole bunch of money, but to every parcel that we have that Brad Coleman has to oversee and look at, it means $458 to every one of us. So
if we can get it up to 500, even better.
it would, we use a lot of our facilities that we as taxpayers have paid, soccer fields, basketball, baseball, you name it. But we never try to take away from what and who uses those. So if a soccer tournament is held out on Downs Boulevard on the county property, then we have to coordinate with our recreational facility.
Right.
We're not just going to shut that down.
So if there's soccer games scheduled, they are still going to have to be able to go on.
That's right. And so you have to work in advance. But what could we do if we had dedicated areas that the public-private would be willing to invest in? These travel teams, parents, if you're watching this show, my conversation is falling on deaf ears.
Right.
You spend money when you're involved in travel. And I'd like to have some more of that. I'd like to have some more of that travel money because it's good, clean dollars. And for the most part, other than the traffic they bring, and that's a big thing.
Right.
But,
because there's things to do after the game.
That's right, or places to eat. Many people that go to the ball games, the bowl games, the SEC tournament, the OVC tournament in Nashville, they come out to our community to eat and see the historical and the beauty of what we've got to offer, and they
really
spend
do.
money.
As I'm taking pictures in town for some whatever event or festival or something's going on, I don't know who lives in Williamson County and who doesn't. I'm just taking pictures, and I get to talking to the people and go, oh yeah, we were in Nashville and somebody told us we needed to check out Franklin. We need to come down to Williamson County. Somebody said that we got to go to Leaper's Fork.
Yeah, there's our community is a destination for a lot of people, but it's a side destination for so many things that go around all around Middle Tennessee, and of course Davidson County. They probably don't have as many tourists up there. They're going to have more with all the activity they've got. But clearly, a place like Sevierville, Pigeon Forge, those are huge destination people, and even I was talking to the mayor in Sevierville and Pigeon Forge. They have developed a sports authority, and they did it a little bit different than the way we did, but they now have 16 different area playing ball, and it might be basketball today. They changed the court out, and volleyball's in there next. Well, if any of us, if you've been to Orlando, Florida, that's a good example.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
When Mr. Disney and ESPN became one and the same. It was just a place you went to. Today, many teams go down there, stay, and oh, by the way, while you're there, they go to the park and spend a lot. Now, I don't know that that's what we should ever go. That'd be way outside of my lifestyle or lifetime, but it never hurts to spend the time and the energy.
And an alternative type of revenue, and what in a place like Sevierville that that really they operate on tourist dollars.
Sure they do.
That's their primary revenue.
Dollywood does right well up there.
Yeah, but in a downturn in the economy, they've got to think of other ways, and sports usually doesn't ever stop.
As a general rule, you see some plateauing off, but it's all based upon those sports activities still go on. And can the parents continue? They may not go and stay 4 days. They may
Right.
go just for the event for 2 days or 3 days. But you're right.
Yeah. So that's getting, there's a lot of excitement being generated about that.
conversation, a
Just
lot of
right
people-
now, just conversation, but that
The next 6 to 12 months, we'll see more and more activity in that and see how some of this works out.
yeah, and just to remind those that maybe haven't seen the last episode that we did when we talked about what is government's involvement in that.
Government's involvement in that is more the conduit, the facilitator, pushing that out more to organizations like the convention and bureaus. Okay, do a study, help us prepare so we can market our community for amateur sports. Now, there's been some people who come in to see me and say, well, is government going to build this? The answer is no. There could be that avenue, so there's the ag park, that you have a 100-acre facility. Maybe you could, if the report comes back and said, if you had a place like this, maybe you could get the private partnership built up on some county land, lease part of the land that's out there that you could build a facility. That's an option.
Yeah.
If you go to the old Hickory Holler Mall out in Antioch area, above Antioch area, they took the mall and converted some of it to ice and built a library there. And so the Predators lease that building for a long-term lease sitting on city property. I mean, there's every conceivable way you could draft this up. Sevierville and Pigeon Forge, we talked about them. They did a county-city partnership, very similar to what we did with the convention center, so that they both contributed to this facility, but they also both received the shared revenue and the hotel motel. So that's another option. It is every conceivable option. I just don't see us in the county building it for someone. That's just not possible
Right.
because we've got all the other things that need
You got
money.
schools to build.
Schools to build and many other
Yeah.
things we've got to address. But I do see in us be a player in that, helping to facilitate and push that down the road, very similar to what Matt Largent has done over to economic development. He worked for us under government, got it done, did a great job, but he's even pushed it even further when he got away and said, okay, Matt, you run Williamson, Inc. You promote this county, we will send dollars over there to help that, and over here it saves us dollars. Now, what you do with your chamber side, that's your business, but the economic side, we are never going to get to
Oh, I
everything.
know. Well, but this is fun, and moving on and continuing in the sports theme. There's another park, the mountain bike
Yes.
that the county's getting
not too
involved
far
in.
where you go home every day. It's out in the Kingfield community. Now, if you're watching this show, if you know where that is, you're an old timer.
Yeah.
But it's off from Pinewood Road, it's on Wilkins
Branch.
Branch Road. We had an organization approach us and about mountain bikes. They wanted a place to ride. We got a couple of parks, the Springs property out
Bending Chestnut.
and Bending Chestnut, and we thought we could do it out there, and we've run into some issues out there that it's not ready. The timing's not there. But we had this 100+ acres off of Wilkins Branch Road. They came to us. I said, how about investigating that? They forgot about the Springs
Yeah.
property. They said, absolutely, it's perfect.
Well, and I think it is more perfect than the other property on Bending Chestnut because you've got it's hillier.
Oh my goodness!
And rockier.
And what they want, and this group came in and said, "Well, I said, I'll make the land available to you. I'm not going to commit any resources to some because that's a limited group. I'm sure that I'm going to get a whole bunch of emails. When I say limited, there's a bunch of people with bicycles that ride on the roads, but these are men and women and children that do the mountain.
They're not
terrain.
on the road.
They're not on the road, and these bikes are very, very expensive and built for that rough terrain. This organization approached us, said, "Well, let us build the course for you, and so we can do 10 miles." And I thought, 10 miles. I was thinking more like, a couple hundred yards.
Yeah.
But there, he said 10 miles, and we said, sure, we'll do it. We did a lease. The commission approved it. So they're in the process of raising funds. They're going to build the course, and eventually we'll start with, of course, you'll have the advanced riders, the intermediate rider, and the beginning rider. And our commitment from the county side, one's the land, and at some point we will have to have a little parking area, which we can do very, very reasonable, depending on the numbers and what they'll have to come back with. But they've got 2 years lease to get this facility built, raise money and get it built. I think it's got a lot of potential. They tell me it does.
And once they build it, anybody in the county can use it.
Absolutely. They'll have I don't think they do it every weekend, but they'll have
Their events.
4 events, 5 events a year, and they need that. And so we've got the maintenance people that can keep the logs cleared.
Yeah.
But the spend, they're talking in upwards of $350,000 to $400,000 to build a course out there, and engineering and constructing and all that. So that's a little bit more than I would have spent, and I would have probably not spent any unless somebody steps up. And those are kind of the relationships.
That's another public-private partnership.
If we'd had the sports authority in, that's exactly who they would have negotiated with. Now, they'd had to come back over and get approval, but that's one thing that, because I know nothing about those type of activities. And so you go to this place, now you try to put all the pieces. Over here's a group that's their job, non-paid, deal with those things, and they love it.
That's awesome. And then on the other side, you're expanding the old Franklin Rec, the first recreation center in the county.
And, the Kathy Odom, she's not an Odom anymore, and several of the other ladies back in those days when city and county worked together and had a parks program, and out of that came all the activity we have today. But at the end of the day, we're going to take that swimming pool we've applied for a grant. We're trying to commit up to $500,000, no, $800,000, no more than $500,000 in a grant. Hopefully we'll get it built for around $500,000, $250,000 investment on our side to take the old Franklin Rec facility after it's been engineered, designed, and all that, and we're going to put a splash pool up.
For the little ones.
For the little ones, and we're trying to figure out a way to cut down. That pool was built when pools were pools.
Yes.
The later pools we built at our rec centers at Nolansville and Spring Hill, they're all 0 entry. So a mom can walk in with her child or her dad, can walk in right into the pool, and it's a gradual process. This one, we're trying to figure a way to do a 0 entry and have a splash pool at the same time. Be great for your grandkids on our times out.
Oh, yes. And speaking of splash pools, I can't wait till they start opening all the pools, and it won't be too long.
No, it won't.
And we'll see you next time on County Happenings.
Today the classroom is different. Learning?
Different.
Teaching?
Different.
Testing?
Different.
Technology?
Essential. Help us feed our cows.